Okay, welcome back on this beautiful Motzai Shabbos. As I say, a halting shir with struggling a little bit with COVID, and we ask everybody to have in mind that I should heal quickly and completely. Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel, and we are holding on Daf Mem Vav Amud Aleph, and we're up to Mosiv, 4 lines from the top. Mosiv Ram Nachum by Yitzchak Umen Ein Loi Chazaka. A craftsman doesn't have a chazaka. That means that if Eddie is a computer repairman and he has Mark's computer, he can't say he bought it. Umenu Dein Loi Chazaka. Ha Acher, but if it would be someone else, Yesh Loi Chazaka. Now, Hechidami, what's it talking about? If there are witnesses that it was Mark's, so if there are witnesses that it's Mark's, then and that Mark gave it to the person, so then somebody else, why does he have a chazaka? And there were witnesses that Mark gave it to him. It's talking about where there are no witnesses. The Ketani Umen Ein Loi Chazaka, and it says that even though there's no witnesses, if the computer is on Eddie's table, Umen Ein Loi Chazaka. So you see that even if the computer is on in the case where the computer is on the table, Eddie can say, yeah, I know Mark, I know it's here, but I bought it from Irving, who bought it from you. He can't say that. So to Yufta the Rabbah to Yufta. This is indeed a refutation of Rabbah, which was a very big chiddush, a refutation. And the only time that Eddie would have a migu is if the computer is not around. If the computer is not around, so since Eddie, and Mark gave it to him without Adam, so since he could say there was never such a thing, so he could say, he's believed to say he bought it. Now, Tan Rabbanan, Nischalfu like Kalim beKalim beBeisa Uman. Let's pick somebody over here. Eddie. Eddie fixes raincoats, and Mark gives him his London fog to fix, a black London fog to fix. And when Eddie returns it to him, he gives him somebody else's London fog. He knows it because Mark has a little cut on the sleeve, and this one doesn't have a cut in the sleeve. So he knows he gives him somebody else's coat. The question is, could Mark use it? It's not his coat. So Harizeh Yishtamish Ben, Mark could use it until Abi, who has Mark's coat, comes and makes the switch. Mark could use it. However, if bebeisa aval or bebeisa mishta, if Mark leaves a house of mourning or a wedding and he takes the wrong coat, harizeh lo yishtamish ben, he can't use it until the owner that has Mark's has his name in it, comes and makes the switch. So Maishno Reisho, Maishno Seif. Why, if he gets it from Eddie, is he allowed to use it? And why, if he takes it home from the house of mourning or from the wedding, is he not allowed to use it? What's the logic? So Amar Rav, so Rav says that this was revealed to me by my uncle, by the great Rav Chia. Amar Rav, have a Yesivna Kamei de Chavivi. I was sitting before my beloved uncle, Va'amar li, and he told me, you know why? Because Eddie is commissioned by people that if you want, you can sell my coat. So since Eddie is commissioned to sell the coat, don't people tell the craftsman, Mecharli Talisi, sell for me my cloak. In other words, they give it to him and they say, look, if you get a buyer, you could sell it. So therefore, what happened is that when he gave it to Mark, he ended up giving Mark the wrong one. But since he was anyway licensed to sell it, so therefore, since he was licensed to give it to somebody already, so Mark could use it until the switch comes around. But Amar Rav Chia Bereid Rav Nachman, Lo Shanu Elahu, but that's only if he gave it to Mark, if Eddie gave it to him. Aval Ishto Yobanev, the wife and children that don't have such a license, like. Vu Nami Lo Yaman, and even he, we only say, is Ela do Amalei Talis Stam, where he says, take this talis. Aval Talischa, but if he said, take yours, so then he wasn't selling him somebody else's. He just made a mistake. He thought it was Mark's. Like, in other words, it could be that what happened is that he went ahead and gave Mark's and sold it to somebody else. So that was a mistake. So he took his license to give him ABs since he's allowed to sell ABs. But that's only if he thought it was ABs. But if he thought it was Mark's and he gave it to him as Mark's and it turns out to be ABs, then he had no right to do that because he thought he was giving Mark's back. So then Mark can't use it because I love talis didayu, because it's not Mark's talis. Now, Amalei Abaya l'Rava. Abaya said to Rava, "Ta achve loch ramai de pumpadisa my avdei." Come and let me show you what the devious people of Pumpadisa do. Now, who's up to this? Eddie. We're going to see what a devious crook like Eddie would do. Listen, follow this carefully. I guess the Gemara is teaching us this in order that we should be on our toes and on guard. And we're putting Eddie a little bit out of business, but that's okay. As we see, he's a master of many talents. Don't run away, Eddie. Don't. He's running away. Oh, he's getting a gun. Now, so Amalei, Mark tells Eddie, Havli sar beloy, give me my overcoat that I gave you to repair. So now Eddie, his overcoat. Eddie already lost the overcoat in a game of poker. So it's Mark. He lost. The guy had a flush, and there went your overcoat. So Eddie says, "Lo yaya dvar me'olam." It never happened. So Mark is now grasping at straws. Mark says, "Oh, isli sadei dechazyu agabach." I have witnesses that saw my coat by you. Amalei ahu achrina hava. That was another London fog. So Mark told him, "Apkinei v'nachzinu." Take it out and let me see it. You say it's another one. So Eddie says, I don't have to take it out. I don't know what you're talking about. I never did business with you. In truth, I'm not going to take it out. You can't make me take it out. So you notice over here that if Mark would have said that I have witnesses that saw me give you my cloak, then Eddie wouldn't have anything to say. But Mark has witnesses that think they saw his London fog by Eddie. So Eddie says, you know how many London fogs there are? That was a different one. So Mark says, well, produce it. I don't have to produce it. I'm a Rava shopper Carmelite. Rava says that Eddie is in his rights because we learned raw Tanya. It's only if we saw the article. But here, the cloak is not there. Mark didn't give it to Eddie with witnesses. Eddie could say it never happened. So Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi has experience dealing with people like Eddie. So he says that you should try to flush it out of Eddie. How? You should say, Amar Rav Ashi v'ich chokim, if Mark would be smart, mashvele ra, he would make it into a case of raw. The Amalei Amait Fisaslay. Mark will say, why are you holding it, Eddie? Lav Mishum de Islach Gabai? Isn't it because I owe you money? Mark makes up something, I owe you money. So, Hashta Apkinu, take it out, Vishaiminu, so that we should evaluate it to see. You say, I owe you $36. Let's take it out, evaluate it, maybe it's worth a little bit more than that. And then shkalat didach, it's worth 50, so you take 36, ve'eshkalan nodidi, and I'll take 14. However, the Gemara says Eddie could outsmart him. And Eddie could say, you say you owe me money? I already got it evaluated. I don't have to evaluate it again. Amalei Rav Achbred Rav Avila Rav Ashi, Matzi Amalei lo shrichna l'shuma didach. I don't need your evaluation. Kvar shemua kamoy de kamach. That was already evaluated by the predecessors of your predecessor. In other words, it was already evaluated, and it is worth the amount of the money you owe me, and leave me alone. In other words, Eddie will play Mark's game and say, yeah, we already evaluated it. So, yeah, if, you know, the bottom line is when you deal with a guy like Eddie, you got to give it to him with witnesses. It's the only way to do it. And by the way, Rabbi Isai, leaving Eddie alone for a second, we notice how far he's sitting away from the screen. But leaving Eddie out of this, I will tell that all of my Rabbanas, I advised my Balabatim, if you go into a job with somebody, write down everything Barachel Bitcha Ktana. The more itemized the job is, the better and easier it is to stay friends with the contractor. Everything should be itemized. What's going to happen if it's not ready on time? What's going to happen if it's more than it's expected? What's going to happen if this material isn't available? Whatever you can foresee, write it down. That's the best way to do business. Now, here, I think we're going to give Eddie a little rest now because he's looking a little bit haunted. We need another fiend. We need another fiend. Okay, Yisrael is up to the task. So anyway, Yisrael is Mark's sharecropper. Yisrael now wants to claim he's in the field for 3 years. He wants to claim that the field is his. He bought it from Mark. And since he's in it for 3 years, he doesn't have a shtat. So the Mishnah says, Oris ein loy chazak. An Oris doesn't have a chazak. Because, of course, he's in the land. He's Mark's sharecropper. So the Gemara says, but why? It's Yisrael says that he's working the land 3 years and he's taking all of the crops. As a sharecropper, he'll only take a percentage. And therefore asks the Gemara, Amai, Ada Idna Palga. Until now he was getting 50%. But Vahashta Kulan, the last 3 years he's taking the whole thing. Isn't that a raya that he bought it? Says the Gemara, no. The reason why he doesn't have a chazaka, Amar Rab Yochanan, Ba'arisei Botei Avos. It's talking about a sharecropper that was working for the family. It's an ancestral sharecropper. That means that they lived with the land throughout the generations. And an ancestral sharecropper sometimes does an arrangement that he works the land for 3 years and he keeps all the crops. And then the next 3 years and he doesn't collect any of the crops. And therefore he doesn't have a chazaka. Amar Rav Nachman, Oris shahoyred arisin tachtav. Oh, this is interesting. Yisrael delegated Dr. Block to work instead of him. If he did that for 3 years, he could claim he bought the field from Mark. Because otherwise, what owner allows a sharecropper to give the job to others? Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nachman, Orish Shaharid Arisin Tachtav Yeshal Chazaka. My time, what's the reason? The loy ovid inish to noch say arise la'are. Owner doesn't allow Oris to let other workers come in instead v'shasik and be quiet. However, Amar Rab Yochanan Oris shechalak la'arisin. But if Yisrael brought in help, and he didn't do the job alone, he brought in Dr. Block and Yitzi to help, then Ein Loi Chazak. My time, what's the reason? Eimer Hamarnya Baal Mishavya. No, that could be that Mark is very happy that Yisrael should supervise the job. That's standard procedure. And that's no raya that Yisrael bought the land. Sholach le Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda le Rav. Excuse me. Dr. Block, this is a good stress test for the COVID, right?
I'm missing the point here.
I said if I'm able to speak for an hour straight, it's a good stress test for the COVID.
No, it's only a stress test for a Talmud Chacham to giving learning to his group. Most people would not do what you're doing, Rebbe.
Shalach le Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda le Rav Nachman bar Yaakov. Yelamdeinu Rabbeinu. Teach us, our master. Oris meyid or einoi meyid. If Mark needs proof that the land is his, can an Yisrael, his sharecropper, give testimony or not? So Rav Yosef Kamei, Rav Yosef was sitting in front of him. Amalei hachi amar Shmuel, oris meyid. Yisrael could give testimony. Vatanya ain't a meyid, he can't give. So the Gemara gives an obvious answer. It depends if Yisrael has a vested interest or not. So the Gemara says, like kasha di kapei rebara. If there's fruit in the land, so Yisrael wants to make sure that he's going to get his fruit. So therefore, since he's working for Mark, he's going to testify it's Mark's. So then he has a vested interest, then he can't give testimony. If there's no fruit in the land, so there's no vested interest, so then he can give testimony. Okay, now Rabbi say a few things. First of all, we're coming up to Erev Tisha B'Av and Tisha B'Av. So tomorrow night, I will let everybody know what's the schedule for Tisha B'Av. And if Hashem should make it that I should be feeling a lot better, then normally I would try to do 2 blat tomorrow night. But I don't know. We'll see how I feel. Right now, we're going to be doing 2 Mishnah Yomises, because I didn't do the Mishnah Yomis on Friday online because I was really under the weather on Friday. So we have to make up now 2 Mishnah Yomis. Berish, Gedalia. What time is Daf tomorrow night? 8:35?
I'm not sure.
You have it on your phone, no?
Yeah, I have it on my phone.
Yeah, I saw it. It's 8:35. I have a schedule.
8:35. That's what I thought. So
Yeah.
8:35 on Sunday, and we're going to the next share will be announced when it's going to be. I never gave a afternoon share on Erev Tisha B'Av. We'll see. But tomorrow night is 8:35, and now we're going to do the Mishnah Yomis.